Hey, what's good, self-direct investors? I hope you're all doing great, and I want to welcome you back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jordan. I'm the mind behind Make More Capital, and today we're going to cover this week in cannabis from January 4th to the 10th. Now, before we jump in, I just ask that if you enjoy this video or you learn something, please leave a like or a thumbs up as it really helps out my channel. And then, of course, please subscribe if you want to catch any new videos to take advantage of this opportunity. But if you are not caught up to speed, I would recommend watching Reality Check Cannabis in 2020, and then you can get caught up with episodes of This Week in Cannabis leading up until now. But folks, the moment we were all waiting for was January 8th, and although I put my last video out a bit early and I predicted it just based on the numbers, I can confidently say now that the Dems flipped the Senate and all the catalysts we needed happened! So kudos to all of you who've been following all along and just like, what are the chances? But I felt with everything that had happened, we needed this. And I just want to point out here is that now the ball is in Chuck Schumer's court. And he said if Democrats control the chamber and he replaces McConnell as Senate Majority Leader, he will act on legalization legislation. Not that he could act or he will decide to, he will act. So this is huge. And this is, again, an older article that was just saying, like, regardless of what happens, even under McConnell, it could happen. But thankfully, we don't need to worry about that because Mitch is gone. Now, before we jump into some U.S. news, I just want to cover a bit about Aphria and give you guys some context. Because I've been holding Aphria since 2018, and they're the one company I've literally learned business through Aphria pretty much. Now, obviously this can be dangerous if you become too emotionally invested in a company, but I've recently been able, not recently, but it's just been an effort to distance myself from that, but they're still the best Canadian LP, especially after their merger from Tilray. It definitely puts them as the number one ahead of Canopy, at least with Canadian market share and global reach. But with the US opening up and Canopy getting to get into acreage and TerrAscend, it's going to be super interesting. But nonetheless, before I get too off track, they're going to announce their earnings from September, October to end of November 2020. So what does this entail? Now, the main thing is just I want to share with you my plan. And what am I going to do? I'm going to hold. Because there's no way I'm going to sell any shares now, considering we literally just got through all of that, and the Dems flipped the Senate, so we actually have the chance of legalization coming this year. And the good thing is, I have a job, and that's why I've kept it. And the main thing is I just don't need to sell. And I just want to remind any of you new investors here, too, is that if you treat the stock market like a casino, you're going to get results, and it's going to be risky like a casino. But if you treat it long-term and treat these companies as they are and just, look for the ones that are executing, you will be rewarded. So that's why I'm selling, but I want to show you something, that's why I'm holding, I'm not selling, but I want to show you something, because every earning, at least since Q4 of 2020, or Q4 of 2019, it would have been, 2020, so like August 1st was when Aphria announced earnings, and you can see it runs up, $5.86, all the way up to $8, or almost $8, earnings came out, and it came back down. Now, were the earnings bad? No, they weren't. But they weren't as big as US MSOs, and they just weren't as big as people expected. And then, again, their next earnings was October 15th. And all through the summer, September, October 15th is coming. It goes up to $8, and then came all the way back down. Why? Well, again, it's not that they were bad, but it just wasn't what people expected. And I think this action is just traders. There are many short-term traders playing this stock right now. And that is why you see like a lot of hype. Take profits the day before, and then, anyone holding goes down. But again, long term, we can see that there's a lot more reason to be optimistic about Aphria. And again, it's just like if you were to sell now before this earning, considering the fact that Mitch McConnell is no longer the Senate Majority Leader, considering Aphria now purchased Sweetwater, which is the U.S. or the alcohol beverage company in Georgia, considering that Ontario has gone from opening 20 stores to 40 stores, and as of December, they've announced 80 stores, we're really going to start seeing the sales growth from Canada probably into the summer. So all I mean to say by that is you could sell, on Thursday, or you could sell on Wednesday before Thursday, but then all of a sudden we could see the stock shoot up because of all of the added momentum, right? So I would just say, if you've come this far, I'm just holding. I can't say what you should do, but that's just what I'm doing. And I wanted to share that perspective with you, though, because again, if you zoom out, I bought in around here, and it was a learning experience all the way through this roller coaster. But I held on. I kept my job, and that's what has allowed me to learn about the industry and just get to the position where I am and ultimately stay as an investor. So just want to remind you that it's important to always long term really think about the big picture. And if you don't need to sell, don't, because what are you going to do with that cash? You'll probably just spend it. And I just want to point out that when we look at Aphria, the growth is extremely healthy, especially in Canadian cannabis revenue. In 2019, end of August, they had 35 million, up to 82 million. Now, their distribution revenue from their distribution company in Germany, again, why their foothold in Germany is massive once Europe opens up for medical, although their distribution numbers went down a little bit. It's a global pandemic, a lot of issues for that to happen. But nonetheless, we can see that their gross profit is going up. And although they did have a net loss compared to a year previously, it's because they're expanding to keep up with they're getting ahead so that they can achieve the goals they want. And ultimately, like, although they did suffer a comprehensive income or a comprehensive loss, it's 2.6 million as opposed to Canopy or Aurora, where they're burning close to $1 billion a year. Aphria is a very good position in Canada, and that's just why I wanted to dive in a little bit to show you context there, especially new investors. That's why I'm holding, and again, if these earnings are not impressive, then that's okay. I can just wait until April's earnings, and then I can wait until the summer, and then ultimately, though, that's when the growth from more stores in Ontario, we're going to see that, and with the law change, Aphria now has Sweetwater, and they have Tilray, the merger, they can get into the U.S., so there's just a lot of potential. I want to bring back Andrew Cuomo because he, as of January 6th, announced a proposal to legalize cannabis and create an equitable adult cannabis program. Much needed. This is the third time he said this. 2019 he said it, 2020 he said it. Had he done it in 2019, he would be a legend, but he's not. I think he wanted to wait for the Dem Senate. Regardless, look at this headline though, because as you've seen in past articles, they like to use the word could. Cuomo to push for legal cannabis. So this is huge. At least he's showing that for the American people, or for the New York population, 19.4 million people as well, he's trying to at least take initiative to ensure that there's going to be more jobs, more tax revenue. And this is important because he wants to eventually, he thinks that this will allow for $300 million to sit in the safe state bank accounts. Again, not the whole idea, but ultimately, I think what's more important, actually, he did mention this, but this program will generate much needed revenue while allowing us to support those that have been most harmed by the decades of failed cannabis prohibition. And that's without a doubt where the focus needs to be. But hey, again, this is good news, and it's because we're not seeing Cuomo could push for legal cannabis. We're saying Cuomo to push for. This is the narrative changing, which is amazing. Now, Connecticut, same deal. You think Cuomo's going to watch New Jersey legalize, and then Connecticut's going to watch New York want to legalize? Hell no. So, Connecticut governor renews pledge to pursue cannabis legalization. But again, look at the difference. Renews pledge, so he renews the fact that he says he will to pursue. It's just like, Connecticut governor wants, you got to read between the lines with these, but it's just good to see that, hey, more politicians are waking up to the fact that this is what the American people want. And ultimately, what the American people want, they're going to get, and that's democracy. Now, this I just wanted to point out because Illinois is making a lot of efforts to provide the social justice. And really, they're showing that they're paying attention to that, and they're trying to change things. Illinois lawmakers seek to add 75 new cannabis licenses in a move to allow more minority ownership in lucrative pot industry. Now, this comes after apparently some problems that resulted last year with the distribution of licenses. And, what was that about? Well, in the spring of 2020, 937 businesses submitted applications for more than 4,500 sites, but only 75 licenses were available. And just 21 qualified for a lottery that determined the winners based on a perfect score. So it's like they set up a criteria to find the perfect businesses, and there were far and few in between. And I just want to point out that this is great for Chicago to kind of admit that they're like, look, we're starting this industry from scratch, and it's not going to go 100% smoothly all the time, but we're trying to figure out ways that we can make it better for the people most affected by the war on drugs in the past. So their governor, J.B. Pritzker, just want to point this out, though, that they're moving quickly. They're trying to get this sworn in by January 13th. So this is amazing, but again, this is just leadership and really trying to solve the problems that were caused by the war on drugs over time. Now, this is an article from New Cannabis Ventures, and I wanted to jump to it just to show you a few things. And if you've been investing for a while, you probably understand this, but I've had a lot of questions about subversive capital. Am I going to get into this SPAC? No. Do I know what a SPAC is? Yes, it is a Special Purpose Acquisitions Corp. I learned about it studying for the CSE exam, and it's another asset that can grow your wealth over time. But personally, I just do not plan to invest in it because I've focused a lot on finding good businesses that are planning to grow. And this is just more of another sort of distraction from what, I want to stick to what I know. So I just want to point out for people that have been asking me, I don't know how it's going to do. It is backed by Chamath and Jay-Z, two role models, people that I would definitely aspire to be, but I think it's more of a marketing ploy for them. It definitely makes early investors in this SPAC money as opposed to, it's easy to jump for the next shiny thing that people put out there, which is why I just want to point out that I'm not going to be jumping into it, and I'm again happy with where I am. But I do want to show you that this past week, Columbia Care and Curaleaf both raised money. Now, this is important to understand as a new investor or just an investor in general, is that raising money, although it's not actually good for shareholders in the short term. Why? Because raising money, so if Columbia Care sells 16.5 million shares at $8.05 to raise $130 million, what that means is they've created 16.5 million shares out of nothing and sold it to new investors at $8.05 to raise this money. But what this does is it dilutes the current market cap of Columbia Care by $130 million. Now again, though, long term, it's not a big deal because any company with good management is going to raise money and use that money well so that they can make more money with it. And the hopes is that you use this new money to pay off any existing debt and work towards profitability. Now, Curaleaf, though, same thing, raises $275 million, selling shares at $16.70. Now, the good thing is, though, the higher these companies can sell these shares at definitely sets a new sort of lower low that you can see as a support spot for any new company, which is great. But again, Curaleaf raises $275. This does dilute shareholder ownership. But the main thing is if a company is raising more money, it's not the end of the world. You might see the share price decline briefly, but as long as the management is good and they're using that money for a good reason, that's important. And I wanted to reference this interview, and I recommend you go watch it. It's fantastic. But why did Boris Johnson, the chairman of Curaleaf, raise this money? I'll let him tell you.
GMP certification. And many people ask me on Twitter, why did you raise all this money? I said, do you have any idea what it costs to operate in a federally regulated environment? It's a lot, right? You got to build out your facilities to a different standard. Your products have to be made to a different standard. The testing standards are going to change. And I'm going to start doing that all now because I feel that the timeline to federal legalization has been pulled forward probably by a couple of years.
Yes.
And that's why I need to make sure Curaleaf is not only building out its footprint, not only building out its brands, but also upgrading itself to be able to play with the big boys. So when Nestle and Anheuser-Busch and Constellation Brands get in the sector, I'm going to beat their pants off.
You hear that? Nestle, Anheuser-Busch, Constellation Brands, those are massive global behemoths. And Boris, he's a billionaire, so this guy's smart. He's got money backing him. And that's why I felt that this could happen because there's so much money in it now and because we're realizing the potential. But clearly he's going to compete. So this is a management where he's got experience in the past, and you would based on what he's saying, it's not like the money's going to waste, which is good. Now, just want to point out that the DEA, they finally are allowing companies to grow cannabis for research purposes. It's about damn time, but just to show you that the DEA they're an obsolete bureau, and they're going to eventually become obsolete once they end the war on drugs, but they are one of the biggest obstacles beside Mitch, and the DEA has continued to spend vast sums to seize millions of pounds of cannabis, sometimes simply paying contractors to burn it. This situation has remained the same, although the DEA announced in 2016 it would develop rules that allows entrepreneurs to grow cannabis for research purposes. The final rules will come after the U.S. House of Representatives and Senate passes the bill to expand cannabis research, which they passed in December of January 15th. So this just goes to show us this government organization is just trying to save themselves until they go out of business, at the sake of the American people. How terrible is that? The DEA is just trying to do this so that, because once you don't have a war on drugs anymore, they're not getting funding. They're going to be obsolete. And imagine all these people in the government, I don't want to lose my job. You should lose your job because you've been wrong for 50 years. And think of how many Americans have had to deal with it because you guys don't want to change the status quo. Thankfully, we've gotten past this, though. So I just wanted to point that out as just taking them 4 years to just basically say, okay, you can grow cannabis for research purposes when we've needed it all along. But we're going to get to some good news and I just want to exit that because I don't even want it to be on here. But this is what I'm talking about, the narratives slowly changing, folks, in the media. Cannabis stocks could see more than a 50% boost, says top analyst. Now, this analyst from Cohen Managing Director Vivian Azer explained her thinking in an interview. And here she says, we're still working through models because we don't have visibility around the time of legislation, but we would anticipate either the back half of 2021 or the first half of 2022. But listen to this. What we have asserted is that we think there could be as much as a 50% upside to the revenue multiples for the U.S. multi-state operators. That means they're going to rise by 50% by virtue of relisting on U.S. exchanges. What allows them to list on U.S. exchanges? The Safe Banking Act. That is one of the bills that sits on the floor of the Senate that Chuck Schumer said he would allow for a vote. So that is huge. This article, again, is in the description if you want to read it. And then I want to jump to this one because, again, this is the narrative changing, folks. U.S. pot stocks have room to run even after Georgia runoff surge, analysts say. And again, after the surge, there's still room. And they're not overvalued yet, and I will start to say when I do believe that they're overvalued, but I just want to point this out, is that there's tons of more room to run for the strongest multi-state operators who are growing at a faster rate than tech darlings in Silicon Valley, according to Pierce Crosby, general manager at Investor Social Network TradingView. So this is fantastic. It just kind of covers what we expected and what actually did happen. Democrats are now poised to advance any number of substantial cannabis bills. The Safe Banking Act and the States Act. Those reforms would remove cannabis from the federal controlled substances, and major U.S. operators will have access to basic banking services for the first time, as well as the option to uplist to major U.S. exchanges. And of course, so they have to say, but reform isn't a guarantee. They just have to say that. But look, the odds are in our favor, because if they can get the votes in the Senate, it should pass. And I imagine if Chuck Schumer would have put that bill on there and it doesn't pass, the American people, I mean, that's your job as the people in the democracy to erupt. So look out for that. But I just want to compare. When you say there's tons of room to run, and Vivian Azer said 50%. Well, Stifel, no, sorry, not Stifel yet. This is Stifel, but this is from, so Stifel and GMP. Stifel is saying that they see U.S. MSOs so comparing U.S. cannabis operators right now to traditional CPG suggests a 20 times upside. So she's saying 50 cents. This is 20 times upside if you want to compare to what normal CPGs are traded at a price to earnings of like 35 to 40. Now, again, these are smaller companies, but it's just... And then I just wanted to compare CGF and the Canaccord Genuity. They're seeing it at a multiples of 13x. So look, all I'm saying is there is growth coming, and what it appears to be is that these companies are significantly undervalued, and we're just waiting to see how long it's going to take and what's required to get them up to par value where they're at. And then just think about how much Zoom or how much Tesla is trading over value. We're not even accounting for that future growth once the globe opens up, right? So that's what gets me so excited. And I just wanted to point out here that Canopy Growth is confident that it will enter the U.S. within a year. And, if a reporter from Bloomberg is going to speak with the CEO of Canopy, and he is confident, we're pretty confident we'll be operating in the U.S. a year from now, so we feel pretty good about that. As much as these articles will always say, but reform isn't a guarantee, if you look at the facts, everything I'm trying to present to you folks, you can be confident too, because the reality is, it looks like it's going to happen, and I don't see anything stopping. So this is just important because I just wanted to, one reference that David Klein said, what we really need to see is some combination of safe banking, which is again lined up to come hopefully by summer, hope sooner than later, but a revised coal memorandum, which allows the states to operate legally in legal states without fear of federal prosecution. That's something that could change if the MORE Act doesn't pass quickly, and then a reclassification by the executive branch, all of which probably happens in the next 6 to 8 months. Klein said in an interview. Maybe he knows something we don't, maybe Boris does too, but I'm not missing out on this opportunity, and I hope I've just presented this in a way that you can see that it's definitely something, it's not an industry that's playing around. So hope you enjoyed this video, folks. We got the news, we got the best possible news we could have asked for. So now we just got to be optimistic and wait for it to pan out. So thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you learned something and enjoyed this video. Please leave a like and subscribe if you haven't yet. And I will see you on Wednesday for the next video. Have a great day, everybody.